Okay, here we go on paper mache. So paper macheing is pretty easy. It's a little bit messy, but it is a process, and I want to show you some tips for doing it well. All right, so to get started, you're going to need actual paper mache paste. Sometimes it's made with flour. Ours is made with, it's a mixture of Elmer's glue and water. You can even just buy it ready to go. But you're going to also need the armature for your sculpture already made, ready to go. And then you're going to need newspapers or newsprint paper that you can tear up into smaller pieces or strips that we're going to layer over top of the armature that's already made. So here you can see me. I'm tearing it up, getting everything ready because I'm going to start dipping my fingers in that paper mache. It's going to be messy and I don't want to have to go back and tear and then dip and messy fingers and tear and dip. This way I can just grab a piece and go to town. As far as the size of your paper strips, I think it works pretty well to go somewhere in the range of near a 1/2 inch wide, maybe 4 to 6 inches long. I kind of like smaller rather than bigger because it wraps around, especially like rounded forms, it wraps around much better. You can smooth it out and not have bumps and corners sticking up as you go around the form. So it might seem like it takes way longer, but it's really not too bad. If you go smaller, you're going to have a much better crafted project in the end. So here you can see, all I'm going to do is take a strip of paper. I'm going to dip it in my paper mache, and then I'm going to use my 2 fingers like a squeegee to dip it into the paper mache. I'm going to squeeze the excess paper mache off so those drips will go back into the container. I do not want my paper dripping wet and puddling when I put it on. It's going to be super drippy and messy. We just need enough to have the paper nicely saturated, and then it layers and sticks as you go around your form. You'll probably find that as you start to wrap these around, they're going to seem like they're not sticking very well. The paper mache paper strips do not like masking tape. So if you've got a lot of tape around your bug, it's going to be a little bit trickier, but keep going. And if you can go around part of it once and then do the next one to go around the whole rest of the way, or at least get a few strips down where they start touching each other the whole way around, they will stick to each other much better as well. So just keep the process going and you'll get them nice and sticked down. As you layer them around your form, let the paper curve the way it wants to go. Don't try to force it to go straight around. If it goes around in a certain direction on over one part, but then it wants to bend and turn so that it's like laying nice and flat against your armature, just let it turn. Try to even maybe help it go in the right direction so that you don't have all those little bumps. Oh, here we go. There you see I tore just a little bit of the end of it, so that kind of the 2 slices that come out off the end can overlap each other, and then it lays down flat. Rather than trying to force these bumps to lay flat, I can just manipulate my paper so that it actually wants to lay flat against the form. Hopefully that makes sense. It's kind of hard to explain. You'll see here that I am just carefully trying to work around the legs. I want to make sure the whole thing is covered. So as I layer, just build the pieces over top of open areas. I started with a layer or 2 already done. So this is more like my 2nd or 3rd layer. It sticks much better once you kind of have that first layer done. But work around the legs. I didn't attach wings yet. I can paper mache the wings separately and then glue or tape those on, and then do more paper mache over top of those to get those attached like they're smoothed in and part of the body as well. So, okay, skinny little part at the end here. That's the little like butt or stinger of whatever it is. It's really pointy, so I still want to get it covered around the end, but I'm going to have to use a really tiny piece of newsprint paper so that I don't have these big wrinkles and corners sticking out off of my form. So it's kind of intuitive. Don't go fast and try to hurry through it. Take the time to do a good job, making sure all the newsprint paper sticks down nice and well. I'm gonna speed ahead here so you can still see what I'm doing, but just want to give you a few other tips. Number one, my legs are propping my body up into the air, so it's actually not resting on that magazine paper that's below it. Whether you have a cardboard or something under it, you're gonna want to keep the table clean. But the paper mache, if you just leave it on a piece of paper to dry, it's gonna stick. So you're gonna want to prop it up on its legs or on tinfoil rails. I'll show you how to make those and how that works so that it can dry and not be ooey gooey, and then whatever it's resting on ends up sticking to it once it's dried. The goal for paper mache is to do 3 layers, maybe even 4. I just don't think 2 is enough. It is possible that your final layer could be colored paper, like tissue paper or construction paper. The one thing I will let you know if you choose to do that is you do not want to dip colored paper into your paper mache, because it's going to turn the paper mache liquid into that color. And if you don't want everything to be that color, that's not going to work out well. Plus, you're sharing your paper mache with somebody else. So that container should stay nice and white and clean. With colored paper, if you're going to use colored paper for your final layer, you want to just dip your fingers in the paper mache and spread it onto the paper separately. As long as that paper gets saturated, you can layer it right over top as another layer on your armature, and it works out pretty well. Just please do not dip colored paper into the paper mache. Okay, just finishing up here, I want to show you one last thing I did on my armature. Once I had the paper mache almost done, I noticed all these little parts that were sticking up, like little corners from the edges of each paper strip. You know, it gets hardened and it's just a big bump that I don't want. So I'm taking the scissors, and it's almost like I'm giving a haircut or cutting off the warts or something. I don't know. I'm just going to snip those little pieces away to try and make it a little more flat and smooth looking. I could go back and do a little more paper mache over top of that if I kind of wanted to cover it up, but I am ready at this point to paint it or do whatever other fun things I want to do to maybe glue on some fun features and finish up my bug. All right, good luck with paper mache. I hope you have fun. It's messy. When we clean up, we do not want to wipe the table with a wet rag. We want to use a dry paper towel or dry rag. Okay, trust me, it gets really slimy if you start trying to wipe your table off with something that's wet. It just spreads it around. So dry paper towel for cleanup. Get everything picked up, cleaned up, put back where you found it, and the tables should be looking really good before you leave the room. Okay, so do a good job with that and have fun.